Oh, Jig's got the Larry King microphone going
Need the suspenders though, man.
on.
Okay, everybody. What time is it? Game time!
Jordan ain't no joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Welcome everybody to the first episode of Jordan Ain't No Joke, the Last Dance podcast, follow-up podcast. My name is Sammy Younan. I host a show called My Summer Lair, a podcast called My Summer Lair, and I hang out with all kinds of cool, unique, creative people. You can follow that at My Pal Sammy for all three, and it's on Girth Radio. So, and in terms of my early introductions to Jordan, I actually got to see Jordan play in Detroit twice with Joe Dumars, against Joe Dumars, because Toronto had just started up. We all went to high school together, and Toronto had
You
just
and
started
Jordan?
up. And I got to go to Detroit to see a number of games there and hang out there. And two of the games I got to see were in the Palace of Auburn Hills, which of course has that whole like history with the Bad Boys. This was towards the end of the era, just as they were getting Grant Hill and Lindsey Hunter and that stuff. But still, Jody was still there, and the building was electric. Like whenever Jordan the Bulls would show up, it would be like all like it was preparing for battle, preparing for war. It was pretty tight, actually. That's one of my earlier Jordan memories.
Nice. I'm Denny Chan. I live in Toronto. I work in the television industry as a colorist, and I am a basketball enthusiast. Been watching since 1988, and as a kid, I didn't really enjoy sports that much, but hearing the name Michael Jordan floating around school, decided to check it out and got hooked ever since.
Great, that's awesome, man. So this is exciting, guys, to finally be on a podcast with my pal Sammy. Thanks for having me. A little about myself: I'm a filmmaker and television producer working at a creative agency in Toronto. In recent years, I've been a basketball fan in passing, hopping on and off the bandwagon when life permits. But the '90s Bulls were a significant part of my formative years. So the Last Dance docu-series that we're going to talk about has me hooked, and I'm excited to join you here to talk about it. My earliest memories of basketball, I mean, I guess it would have started in the 80s, watching, I guess the Lakers in the 80s was probably my earliest memories. And then, like Denny mentioned, all of a sudden, this guy Jordan comes out of the ether and just explodes onto the scene. And, that was basically my guy since I guess the end of the 80s and into the 90s. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this docu-series with you guys.
All right. As you all know, the Last Dance, the camera crew was following around it was like a rock and roll band more than a basketball team at that point. When you first heard about this documentary, did you have any impressions? Were you getting excited? You kind of alluded to this a little bit, Jig.
Yeah, so I mean, when I first heard about it, to me it was like, okay, this is being pitched as the Michael Jordan documentary that we've all hoped for and wished for. After seeing the first two episodes, it's not just about Mike. It's about a moment in time for that team as a whole. Obviously, Michael Jordan is the center of that story. But it seems like it's going to be a much bigger palette in terms of the storytelling than just the man himself. So those were my early impressions. I thought it was just going to be a Michael Jordan documentary, but it's a much bigger story.
I wasn't sure what to expect. I was just excited because the man's pretty reclusive and he lets his game do the talking, doesn't let the mouth talk. Well, at least not to the public. So, it just wants, growing up, you watch every home video, every like NBA home video possible on Michael Jordan. And so it kind of feels like, well, I'm not sure what we don't already know, but it was good to hear that it was a all those times when you watch the games, you saw all those camera crews following them around. So you always wondered what happened to that stuff. So now that's amazing that it's presented. I hope so. We'll get to see more.
A lot of NBA guys, when they retire, they end up in television, or they kind of still active in the game. John Paxson, who's on this team for a little bit, he was the general manager, run that team into the ground. A lot of players, they kind of still stick around and still hang around. You can see Dominique Wilkins still hanging out with the Hawks and stuff like that. Jordan kind of he was there, but like you said, he didn't really say much. He's like Batman or something, just like in the city.
He just, I mean, he left it all on the floor, right? I just, he didn't need the money. Like, a lot of guys kind of needed that second career to keep things going. But Michael Jordan just kind of left it all on the floor. And obviously, the other side of Michael Jordan that could be an entire other podcast is, the Jumpman and the Nike collaborations and that's $1 billion industry that doesn't get a lot of analysis, I guess, either. But he doesn't need it. He didn't need to do anything until now, I guess. So it'll be interesting to see how much we get from him in the series. The first 2 episodes, he seemed pretty candid and open. So I'm excited to see what they're going to get out of him.
Tequila will do that to a man.
Yeah. Is it tequila that he's drinking? I have to say, when I saw the trailers, I couldn't help but notice that he was smoking cigars and drinking what I thought was scotch at the time, but it's we've since come to learn that it's tequila, his own brand, of course. And I just knew that, okay, this is it. It's his confession time.
I got some stories to tell.
It's like red wine for Sammy.
Oh, no, that's a different podcast for another day. For the first episode, then, we'll start off with some general impressions. Was there anything that kind of stood out, or was there something new that you learned, or something that was shocking, something that was rude?
Well, I mean, I think for the first episode, there's a quote from one of these sports writers, I think, Wilbon, and his quote was kind of encompasses what Michael Jordan was at the time. I think the quote was like, at that point, Michael Jordan's already the ultimate sports alpha male. I mean, the only comparisons that I recall being apt were to Babe Ruth and Muhammad Ali. That's it. That's the list. I mean, that's quite a quote. When I heard that, I was like, yeah, that pretty much encompasses what Michael Jordan was and is to sports, not just basketball. So that was a pretty striking way to sort of start the film, the episode.
You missed that, though. Oh, you missed that in your athletes nowadays, right? You just want the dude who will put it all on his shoulders and just, it's almost like politically incorrect to say be the man, but just take on all the burden, it's not a burden. It's just, he sees responsibility at like completely different level than most.
It's what warriors do. It's what when you're on the field, there's no time to hug and be nice. It's like you got a job to do and just do it. And you could tell that from some of the jabs he was taking at other players during those practice sessions, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But that quote to me is just, obviously I'd never heard that quote before until now, and it just really summed up everything about the man.
Jordan also had a line too in the doc, I think it was in the first episode, where he said, my vow was to make the playoffs every single year.
Yep.
And he said that, but I'm like, it was clear too that the organization didn't make the same vow or the same commitment, right? As we saw with the second year. So it's interesting because it's like, he came in, and this is what you're saying, Denny, like, I'm going to be the man. I'm going to do this. Like, we're going to make the playoffs every year. And then hopefully eventually we'll get the championships. But I'm like, I'm committing to this. Like, he put it out at the beginning. That this wasn't like an evolution. This was like, I'm doing this. I hope you guys are going to come with me. If not, it'll be tears.
Well, I mean, and that to your point, Sammy, about the team and sort of the management and the team not being on the same page. The first episode pretty much sets up, Jerry Krause as the antagonist, as sort of the villain of the piece. And it's pretty brutal right off the bat. I mean, that's only the first episode, and he's the little man. He's got I think someone called him the little man problem. He has a little man problem, And I'm like, ooh, that's rough. And then you just see Jordan insulting his boss to his face. It's pretty incredible. Um, but it's kind of amazing how they set that up pretty quickly. I guess with the framework of this piece being the 97-98 season, they did a good job of setting up sort of all the players pretty quickly, just in terms of the drama of the whole thing.
Yeah, Kraus unfortunately died a couple of years ago, so he doesn't get to like. It's kind of mean because they've been sitting on this footage for years, so they could have put this out at any time. But Kraus unfortunately is gone, so he doesn't get to like defend himself or explain his choices.
Yeah, I mean, but I also wonder if they reached out to him while he was alive, or maybe he was in poor health when they were shooting. I don't know. It is possible that he just didn't want to participate. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they handle this. If they're setting him up as the villain, he's not there to defend himself. And I mean, history has shown that he obviously did some pretty terrible things. But man, those guys were rough on him. The diet pills insult.
The doc goes along too. Denny and I know too from back in the day. They were so mean to Tony Kukoc.
Oh,
And you saw a bit of a teasing of that in the second
yeah.
episode too, man.
Yeah. He was pretty rough with him during that practice session.
I mean, I'm hoping the doc, as it moves on, it kind of dives deeper into Jerry Krause a bit more too. And I know it's because everybody's just reacting to the first two episodes, and let's see if there's any form of redemption. Well, if not redemption, but at least hindsight from Michael. Not that it matters.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think that's what I was saying earlier. It'd be interesting to see how they handle it, because you're right. He has passed on, and he's not there to defend himself. Reinsdorf is there, who I think, bears some of the responsibility for all the management decisions. He seems pretty eager to make Krause the fall guy as well.
That guys don't talk.
Yeah, I mean, Reinsdorf, I think he's kind of the evil emperor to Krause's Darth Vader.
That is kind of the job description, though, right?
No,
it's day to day, and he's responsible for the players and their movement.
Oh no, 100%. I do agree with that, but it's just the tone of Reinsdorf's interviews at this point, anyways, in the doc. It's kind of like that moment where he's like, "Well, I mean, I told Pippen don't sign a long-term contract." It's like, did you really? Why would you? Wouldn't it benefit you that he did sign this long-term contract? Like, you seem to be doing a little bit of revisionist history here, but I don't know. We'll see.
It was crazy when you look at the contracts, because this was like, especially for Pippen, this was one of the cheapest championships that you could buy as an owner. He bought the Bulls for cheap because they were a dead-end team, and then he got these like 6 championships out of it, paying the players basically next to nothing. So he did well for himself.
That's true. I mean, nowadays, people are buying franchise players to come to their team so they can win a championship. So it's kind of like, yeah, what they got for what would cost billions today. I mean, I guess maybe it was a great business decision in the long run.
Denny, did you appreciate Pippen? Did you fully appreciate Pippen in real time?
Yeah, but I think you kind of did it in a denial kind of way. Like, you saw it, especially like in the first championship when they went up against the Lakers, and Jordan, I think, was in game 1, he guarded Magic, but then they sick Pippen on him, and it really changed the tone of things. And it's kind of like, I think that's when I really appreciated him. Like, Pippen would have good nights, from 1989 to 90, and you can tell that he was rising, but he still put all the focus on Jordan. And then we saw Pippen guarding Magic, and the way he did it, it's like, oh, damn. And then as the 90s moved on, you saw how badass he was getting.
On Ewing.
Yeah, like so many times. But so you kind of knew it, but it was hard to shift your attention to it fully with full great appreciation.
And I think also, really appreciating that number 2 on a team, it's something you learn to do as you get older.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we were young at the time, and we were, dazzled by Michael Jordan, and you don't really think of what it takes to help someone like that shine, right? It's just, I think that comes with maturity, right? It's like all these kids now think who probably love LeBron and not really respect, the rest of the team around him.
I have no respect for Kyrie, just as a note.
That's a different podcast. I have no respect for Kyrie podcast.
I think that podcast would probably do well.
Yeah. Especially too, once I found that they got Rodman, Jordan took up so much oxygen in the room, and even now he's such a charismatic figure. And then once they got Rodman had all the hair and he was loud and was punching cameraman on the side. Like, he also sucked up a lot of air, and Pippen's personality is kind of like low key, so he kind of slipped a little bit through the cracks. Like, I agree with you, Denny. Like, you see what Pippen did in real time and you understood it. But then looking back, I'm like, man, that guy really was good. Like, he earned his spot as one of the top 50 players of the NBA.
The 90s was it's so hard to kind of explain to young people nowadays. But I think star power had so much more weight then. You focused on the one person that was like, had all the intangibles, who could do everything. And even though Pippen was really very skilled and could hold his own, he didn't have the same killer qualities. He was close, but still, I don't think he wasn't even able to kind of hold it together when Mike was gone. And as soon as he heard Mike was coming back, like, you can sense the relief in Pippen a bit. There was that one shot, I don't know if you guys ever remember, when Pippen was sitting on the bench. This was one of the year that Jordan was gone, or the year and a half, and he put his shoe up to the camera while he was sitting on the bench, and he was wearing a pair of Jordans, and he was giving the, like, kind of come here sign, right? That's quite a famous image from back in those days when the rumors that Jordan was coming back was happening. So that's the thing. Jordan wouldn't do that, at least maybe not publicly. Like, if Pippen left and Pippen suddenly came back, I'm sure Jordan would have been happy. But this documentary showed that Pip was gone for like the first few months of the season, and Jordan just said, "Okay, fuck it, I'm gonna do it."
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say the same thing. You could see right away, like when Pippen was out for the surgery, Michael just moved on. He just kept moving it forward, and it was like, yeah, we'd love to have him back, but that's not happening. It really showed how pragmatic and what a realist he was. Like, it's like, okay, the situation is what it is. It doesn't matter. We move forward. We're taking that beach, like, and I can see how that could have rubbed a lot of guys the wrong way. And, to speak to your point about Pippen, kind of being in the shadow. I mean, how can you not, when people, at least twice in the first two episodes, I think there were clips of people referring to Michael Jordan as God. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore, right? I mean, so how does anyone be number two to God, right? Like, he had quite the long shadow to sort of live under.
It's interesting too, because Denny, what you're saying about like the star power from back in the day. Tom Brady right now is a GOAT, but he's kind of boring. Like, if you go out to dinner with him, all you get is dinner. You don't get this crazy story.
Unless the wife comes with him.
Yeah, like, there's nothing. I found, like, as we've kind of gone along, Steph Curry's the same way. He's a great shooter. He's easily one of the best shooters in the history of the NBA. That's not an argument. Then he's also like, all right, you can hang out with him. That would be it. Like, you like stuff? I like stuff. Like,
yeah,
it's
weird. It's in a weird way. These guys, the later generation, they've kind of been domesticated, but which is great for their personal lives and I guess for the image of the game. But it's not as fun to talk about and doesn't make as great a story.
Jordan had that cool story, I think it was in the first episode too, when he was a rookie on the Bulls, and he was in the hotel rooms and he was looking for all the different players where the rest of the team was. And he walked into the one room and everyone's like doing weed and there's like girls and
Coke,
all kinds of stuff is happening. And he's like, I'm out. I'm like, and it's also too, like, Jordan also recognized self-preservation, because he knew like one scandal, all this could like go away. Like if this place gets raided, like he even like you can even hear the fear in his voice right now. Like they might take my tequila, my cigars right now.
Well, I mean, how incredibly like grounded he would have had to been to say like to himself, "Well, I'm just as guilty as any of you guys just by being here," and just being able to realize that and not succumbing to the peer pressure that most guys would. Is, I mean, that says it all, right? Like, I mean, a lot of that has to do with his family, you know, his parents and the values they must have instilled in him. But I mean, can you imagine if that had happened? I think that could have really crushed his early start.
I think that shows you how laser focused the dude was, even as a young person coming in. Right, all he cared about was basketball, and then it paid dividends.
Oh, for sure. I mean, between his parents and then being coached by Dean Smith, I mean, he really learned what discipline meant, right? And I think that really probably boosted his confidence. I think he even says it. It boosted his confidence playing with Dean Smith. They're playing for Dean Smith, and speaking of confidence, this is something that I think the documentary brings up really nicely. Quite crucially, is that how Jordan. There's significant moments that help Jordan build his confidence.
So the beret in Paris.
Well, the beret in Paris. I mean, I think by that point he was fully confident in himself. But
it's a hard one to pull off, man.
It's true, especially that '90s beret, or that beanie, the Jordan beanie.
Yeah. That was a lot of confidence.
Well, it was, but there are specific moments where he talks about how certain games had built his confidence to take it to the next level. And even after he'd gotten injured was it the 85, 86, he goes back to college. He goes back to North Carolina, and he just goes there and rebuilds himself, which, when he comes back, he becomes bigger and better than he ever was. And that going away was another thing where he went off to essentially build his confidence. And that's crucial. I mean, I think if you see them on the court after that, I mean, that was I think a turning point for sure.
I liked how he said he earned his name from Mike to Michael. North Carolina shot in '82.
Yeah, it's funny because the Scotty, when he was drafted, was Scott Pippen.
Yeah, I didn't like that, man.
It just sounds
wrong.
So yeah, it sounds wrong.
But when you put those two scenarios together, like already that kind of tells you the difference. Scott preferred Scotty, while Mike became Michael.
Bar mitzvah.
Well, and also just like when he got to the Bulls, like he talks about how he decided whoever was the team leader, he was going to go after him. And that to me is just hilarious. That's some jailhouse street stuff where you attack the alpha, become the alpha. And within 2 weeks, they knew that he was the best on the team.
Yeah. The thing that surprised me about this series, I mean, since they went back, they didn't talk about the '84 Olympic team. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but when, obviously back in the '80s, they were still only using collegiate players. And so then when they were doing a bunch of exhibitions leading up to the '84 Olympics, they faced off NBA players for 8 games. Of those 8 games, they won every single game against the NBA players. And Jordan was crushing people. Like, I think, of the 8 games, he led scoring in 3 of the games. But when you kind of watch the highlight reels and whatnot, he was just mashing it on people. No respect for his elders.
No regard for human life, too, man.
No.
Well, I think that probably speaks to where the NBA was at that point.
This is pre-Olympics exhibition games against NBA.
Right.
84,
84. Right.
Yeah.
84. Right.
And we're talking about guys like Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, like a lot of the top dudes. And the Olympic team won every game.
Wow.
Isaiah's, when they had his little name card, underneath it, all it said was 12-time NBA All-Star. That was it. He's won a couple of championships.
Yeah, they were being cute with those lower third names because Obama was former Chicago resident. Clinton was former Arkansas governor.
But I think a lot of people made a big deal of that. I think the documentary was actually playing to the intelligence of people. Like, yes, you guys knew they were presidents, but they're putting it into the context of when Jordan was playing in Chicago, and you're putting like Obama back into that time period. Same with Clinton.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it makes sense. But it does intentionally or unintentionally end up being pretty funny.
Yeah.
And we also should pick up and speaking of like when you were back in the day and going to see those games, we got to talk about that Bulls introduction.
Oh.
With the
Alan Parsons project.
And
that song.
Because this is what you're talking about, Denny, before when you're saying like the 90s was so iconic, was because the NBC picked up the basketball rights, the national basketball rights. And this is again timing because Jordan just won the championship in 91. And NBC had Round Ball Rock, which of course that's like our national anthem for basketball. And then
what was Round Ball?
That was the John Tesh one. Remember that one?
Oh, right. That's what it's called?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That was John Tesh, man.
No, I know it's John Tesh, but I didn't know that was the name of the song.
Can you repeat the name again, Sam?
Round Ball Rock.
Wow.
That's what it's called.
The rock part makes me laugh.
Yeah. There's John Tesh. He got hired to. I don't even know why they reached out to John Tesh out of all people. They reached out to him and they're like, yo, we just got the basketball rights. Can you like make a theme song for us? And he's like, all right. And then he has a story and there's a YouTube video. I can share it with you guys. Put it in for the notes for this. But he came up with a tune for it and he called his answering machine and he just like basically hummed it. And you can hear the original like construction of the song. But it was those two songs, like that Alan Parsons, the Serious, and the Round Ball Rock. Like once you hear those two, you're like, oh yeah, it's on.
Game night, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of the Alan Parsons project and the music, I'd love to touch on the soundtrack to the series. It's been amazing. Obviously, the Alan Parsons project is kind of the climactic music cue, I think, in episode
one closed it out.
One closed it out, yeah. But I mean, the use of hip hop that tracks with sort of the era as well is fantastic. My favorite, of course, is the Rakim Ain't No Joke montage. And then, of course, they do the Mason Puff thing off the top of this episode one, I think.
Yeah, I thought I told you that we won't stop.
Yeah, just some great music choices that really set the period and the tone.
LL.
Oh, yeah, the LL, yes.
That was episode 2.
Yeah. Scoring 63 on the playoff game to LL. I'm bad. I'm like, That's like, when they were editing that, like whoever came up with that, whether it was the editor or the director or somebody, whoever came up with it was like, let's use LL for this. Once they scored it in the editing room, they're like, we got it.
Yeah, that must have been a lot of fun to edit to those tracks.
Where do you hope to see like this series go? What do you want to see next? We've kind of already touched upon like Isaiah Thomas. You guys mentioned him a little bit. Bullying Tony Kukoc. I'm looking forward to more of that. Those European years. Where are you hoping to see, or what do you want to see next?
Well, I mean, one of the other quotes from, I think it's episode 2, where Michael is saying, like, my innate personality is to win at all costs. If I have to do it myself, I'm gonna do it. It drives me insane when I can't. Really speaks to the man's like mental toughness and his discipline and his work ethic. And I hope they really dive into that a little more. You do get a taste of it in the first 2 episodes, but I'd love to see something a little more deeper when it comes to that stuff that we may have never seen before.
There's a great Tex Winter story. Tex Winter is one of the assistant coaches on the Chicago Bulls. And I can't remember what game it was. So he took it over and he won the game. And Tex Winter, when he was walking off the court, Tex Winter said to him, "There's no I in team." And Jordan replied, "Yeah, but there's one in win."
Nice. And the other thing is, they've set up Krause as the villain. I kind of touched on this earlier, but I'd have to wonder if they're going to give Reinsdorf a pass on this. Are they going to sort of push him on some of the decisions that were made? Because everything that management did at that time just seems greedy and petty. So, I'd love to see them sort of dig into that a bit. And just to go back to my point about the work ethic in Jordan's, process, I'd love to see something a little more like the stuff in that Kobe documentary, Muse. Have you guys all seen that?
No.
Yeah.
Muse is fantastic. And then there's a Spike Lee movie, Kobe Doing Work as well. I'd love to see something like that. I mean, I could watch a whole series just on those aspects of his career.
Who's the director for Muse?
Oh, it's Deepak Chopra's son.
Represent, man. Get those brown references in there, man.
I can't remember his name now. Something Chopra. I know that. Gotham. Yeah, Gautam Chopra.
There you go.
But yeah, so I would highly recommend those two Kobe documentaries as just sort of side viewing to sort of get you into the headspace of someone like Michael Jordan. Kobe was probably, at least in my estimation, the closest anyone got to being Jordan caliber. And so, yeah, I'd love to more people to see those two documentaries.
You already got beef with the ownership already, eh? Like 2 episodes in?
I mean, how could you not? I mean, it just seems ridiculous. Like, if you look at it, like, you've got, and like, there's this whole thing about them saying, well, everyone on this team is basically in their final years. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. I mean, Pippen went on to play for how many more years after that?
4 or 6 at least, I think.
Yeah. So it just seemed kind of dirty to me, especially to do that to a team that was just so monumental, the way those guys were.
It's so money. Like, as an organization, as a business, you don't understand the logic of that. Just let it ride, man. Jordan made a great point about, like, give us the right to lose the championship. And that once again, that's just insight into how much a purist he is. It's just about the game and rules of engagement with the game in the purest form. None of the like side business bullshit.
I mean, this is one of the things I'm looking forward to in the doc as it goes along. Do you think that management, especially the owner, was influenced because Jordan retired for that year and a half, 18 months or whatever in the middle. So they had a trailer of what life was like without Jordan, and it wasn't good. So do you think he was kind of like, once Jordan came back, and then they won 2 more, and then they were going to, obviously, they didn't know they were going to do a three-peat, but they were on their way there. But do you think that they realized, like, it's better to pull the plug now, so that way then we know what we're getting into? Because we've seen, like, that almost 2 years without what Jordan's like, and it wasn't good.
Yeah, I mean, I think they also, probably realized that, they were going to have, this team was going to get even more expensive for them. So I figure they probably figured they've got 6 or I guess 5 at the time, and they were going to cut their losses and try to rebuild. But yeah, I don't know. It just seems like there's more to that story.
I think they need to also get into more details of like the cap structure back in those days and what the cap was, because Jordan was making like 30 plus million, and then everybody underneath that was like, I think Rodman was second at 4 plus million. So, and revenues back then obviously aren't what they are today. But I do know, like, back in those days, like, Ewing was making around 20 million. Shaq was like making big dollars like that. And so for most of Jordan's career, except for those last 2 years, he was making 4 million, maybe average. But 90 million in like endorsements.
Yeah.
That McDonald's money.
Yeah, man.
And Pippen signed a 7-year contract. Nobody signed to 7 years now.
Yeah, nobody would do that now. But
7 years is a crazy amount of time when you like Reinsdorf was kind of right. It's like, I wouldn't sign this deal. I'm like, I wouldn't sign it either.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but he was in a tough position, right? Like, with 12 family members and, 2 that were disabled. So I kind of understand that. It's one of those tragic decisions, in hindsight.
Well, I mean, but Scotty, like, after the Bulls, he caught some decent cash.
Yeah.
I think his ex-wife tweeted, like, yeah, we were okay after he left the Bulls.
funny thing because you're talking like he is still getting paid millions. Like it's not like he was just paid like 500,000 or something and they called it a day. Like,
Yeah.
It was 18
he'd
million.
still take
right?
care of his family and stuff. It just wasn't like, and really until Jordan came along, nobody made that kind of money, right? Like Jordan was the one who set up that whole infrastructure
Hmm.
where people were like Jordan's a billionaire now, partly because he owns an NBA team, but that's just really like unheard of. Like the amount of endorsements and stuff that Magic, Bird, and even Dr. J walked away with. It's pretty paltry. It's like pretty thin. Like I know Jordan, Magic, and Bird did some stuff with Converse, a few other things. Walt Frazier had the Puma Clydes and stuff like that.
It was a good gamble on Nike's part, and it was amazing. Like he clocked so much cash for them, so everybody won on that one.
That's something also to look forward to see like Nike's involvement in all this as this starts to like get bigger and bigger. Because Nike and NBA now are just, it's like a marriage now. There's no beginning and end anymore with those two things, with those two organizations.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll really even do you think they'll take the time to even get into that? They seem pretty focused on this one season. But I mean, I would love to hear more insight because it's interesting because even Phil Knight's biography, Shoe Dog, doesn't even get into the Jordan era. It's everything leading up to the Jordan era.
I know. Because as I was reading it too, and you get to the last chapter, I'm like, I don't think he's gonna make it. Like,
Oh, exactly. I had the exact same concern. I was like 3/4 of the way through this, and I'm like, oh, he's not. I'm like flipping to the end. I'm like, this is not gonna happen. Sammy, you've read. I know this book. It's on my list to read. It's the authorized. I think it's an authorized Jordan biography. I think you've talked to the author.
Roland Lazenby.
The Lazenby book. Would you recommend that to people?
Yeah, he wrote 2 books. He wrote a Michael Jordan biography called The Life, and then he wrote a Kobe biography called Showboat.
Showboat, yeah.
Both of them I highly recommend, like because he covered NBA for years, so he knew both of them. He had access to them. He had access to teammates, and he was also one of the few sports writers. I don't know how to put this, but he loved the game and he loved the players. I think we'll get into it as we go along. Like we saw Sam Smith in the first episode. He was always kind of like, he had an agenda a little bit of like, I know I can like make money off of Jordan, right? And I put these books out and stuff. Remember all this, Dan?
No, but yeah, there was always something a little questionable about him.
Yeah, there wasn't the love of the game there. He loved the green more than he loved the game. With Roland, though, he has a genuine heart and really passion. So he's more interested in the stories. His book also is a good companion for this documentary because, as we've already alluded to, there's things they kind of skip over, like when Denny mentioned the Olympic thing. Those kind of stories are in the biography, and they kind of flesh it out. So it's like when we were back in like high school and we had to do the book report, but you don't want to read the whole book, so you just watch like the Mel Gibson Hamlet or something, and then you hand it in based on that. So The Last Dance is good as like a summation of Jordan and clearly where they're going. But it's like if you have time to read the Roland book, yeah, Michael Jordan Life and Kobe Bryant Showboat, I highly recommend it.
And you have an interview recorded with him on My Summer Lair, right? I think
the link up for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Put a link in the show notes for that.
I mean, so far, does anybody else see a blown opportunity here in terms of structure? Like, I don't know, like what Jordan's, where he kind of drew the line on this, but a 10-episode doc, come on, like that should have been at least just for, the 91 season, or take it back even further. You can do like seasons after seasons about Jordan, and then the Bulls, and then the championships. So what do you guys think structurally of how it's going so far?
To me, the structure wise, as I was saying at the top of the show, is that the first 2 episodes clearly show that this wasn't going to be about just Jordan. And so structurally, that to me seems okay, well, there is a potential for them to get into the weeds with other people in the story. And you're right. I mean, there are sections of Jordan's life where like I'm like, oh, that's a whole documentary right there.
Yeah.
So I feel there won't be enough time potentially given to some really interesting parts of his story. And so that, yeah, certainly is a concern in terms of just what it could be. But I imagine, there are budgets and, focus that they wanted to give to this thing. So they decided on this one season. But I mean, I do like they're handling the flashbacks nicely. I like that little dial, you know, sort of graphic that they use to go back and forth in time. So I do appreciate that structurally, but it's such a dense story, and I think they covered a lot of interesting points so far that I just hope that they spend the time to dive deeper into some of those areas before they come back to that that one season.
The original pitch too was crazy. It was to follow them around for the season, and they were gonna put in a traditional doc, so it'd be an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. And I couldn't even imagine, like, considering how much footage you have,
Yeah.
do an hour and a half.
Yeah, in a way, like that film crew that followed them is a boon for these filmmakers now. Like, I mean, it would have been impossible to do this series without that footage. And I wonder, was that behind the scenes documentary the first time anything like that ever happened? Does anyone know? Like an all access?
Well, to follow him for the whole year, that was the first time. What happened was, what was his name? David Stern. He wanted to start documenting more the NBA mythology, basically.
Brilliant move on his part.
And of course, right, as we're getting into the 80s, into the 90s, all the video stuff was starting to get better. The quality was starting to get better. The technology was starting to get better. You guys know this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a way then to start documenting these things and kind of package these superstars so that the people could then like reference them and have the historical documents. I guess the original pitch seemed to be like they were going to follow them around for the whole season, chop this all down to an hour and a half, and then I guess put it up as an NBA video.
Did that ever happen?
No, they released a trailer in 2018. Now it's the first time that ESPN released a trailer, and everyone was like, "It's coming." And then they had a screening for the first episode during an All-Star weekend. So there's all these like little dribbles kind of coming in and out here and there.
No, I mean the film crew that was filming back in the 90s during that season, that was for what purpose? Were they planning on making a hour-long documentary like you're saying?
Yeah.
And then it
would have been
happened?
an NBA home video, basically, what Denny was saying at the big top. Like when the Raptors won, they put out an NBA video called the 2019 Champions. And it's just like a whole bunch of highlights of the whole season.
Right. But did that ever actually happen with this footage back then?
Because Jordan controlled it. And so
it got shelved.
Yeah. So Jordan only committed to it. He said, I'll do it if you let me control access to it. And that was part of the reason why there was a delay. They shot everything. And then Jordan's main issue, and it's a weird issue, but I kind of get it. He felt that the times had shifted and that he would be looked at as mean or like he was a bully to the players.
And?
It's kind of a weird thing because it's like sometimes it makes us laugh. Other times, like Jig, you mentioned Michael Wilbon. He has a young son, Matthew. Matthew's about 12 or 15 years old. And after the first two episodes aired, Jordan texted Wilbon and he said, "Tell me what your son thinks of me." Like, he had never seen him play, obviously, right? He's like 12-year-old kid or 13-year-old kid. He's like, "Tell me what he thinks. Does he think I'm mean? Does he think I'm cool?" You know what I mean? So if that story's accurate, then it's like, I think that's a legitimate thing of that, like, Jordan was worried about perception. Because, like we said at the top, that Jordan didn't talk a lot. He didn't do a lot of interviews and stuff. He was always kind of operating in the shadows. He let what he did on the court talk. But
especially when he's talking to Tony Kukoc.
Yeah. Well, he earned those beatings, though.
I got to scream at you all day. I believe that's the quote from the episode.
It was even worse too when they when Pippen and Jordan were on the Dream Team. This was in the '92 Olympics. They played what country was Tony Kukoc from?
Croatia.
Yeah.
Yeah, Croatia.
They went at him the whole game, and they destroyed him. They're like, all right, you're Krause's boy. Krause kept going around. He's like, I have a great player. I hope you'll see this as this comes along. Because Krause was like, I got Tony Kukoc. He's amazing. You guys are going to be like gone. Nobody will remember you guys after this. Tony's going to be like the man. And then they're like, all right. So when the Olympics came around, they're like, we're going at him. And then so when they destroyed him in the Olympics, went back to Krause and they're like, how's your boy now?
I think it hurt Tony Kukoc's feelings too. Like when you watch the '92 documentary, what do you call it? The Dream Team documentary. Like, yeah. It's like I don't know why they were like what they had against me, man. Like, that's the one thing I regret. I watched too much stuff leading up to the documentary. I wish I just could have saw it pure.
You don't regret the Tony tears?
Well, no, I just wish I saw it like in the documentary and not in previews or things like that.
Well, that's the thing. We're only 2 episodes in, and so there's 2 episodes out of 10. So there's still plenty more for them to touch
Plenty
on.
more tears to come.
Tears for everybody.
Well, speaking of tears, so we're talking about Pippen and just his personality, and which ultimately fit for being number 2. But man, Pippen as a rookie getting smacked around by Charles Oakley. Oakley was mean.
But they think Jordan was mean. Oh gosh.
Oh my god. But he was like Wayne from the Wonder Years. Like he was everyone's bully big brother. Like if he loved you, he got your back. But man, he would just be, oh my god. It was so weird to see Scottie Pippen get smacked in the face.
I mean, some of this stuff, surprisingly, I thought the first episode particularly, a lot of stuff is taken from things that you might have seen in prior, promotional videos or NBA home video stuff. And, it's great for people who don't know Michael Jordan or who didn't grow up during that time. But for maybe people who had already seen those kind of NBA videos back in the day, you kind of like, you're watching, it's like, oh, that Dean Smith interview, I saw that in the Michael Jordan video from da-da-da-da, and that interview with his dad. And, they put everything in good context, right? But, it's hard to strike that balance, I guess, to satisfying those who kind of know and those who kind of lived through it back in the day.
Yeah, and the fact, too, like, I already brought up this point, but Jordan also took a break in the middle. I know he went to play baseball. You look at guys like Curry, like, who just was it 4 championships in a row or 5 finals in a row? Like, you get burnt out, like, trying to do this all the time because it is such a mental game. And I think that Jordan took the time off where the Rockets won 2 championships back-to-back there. I think that allowed him to do the second three-peat, right? Just to get away from it.
Yeah, Steve Kerr currently, he commented that, from his experience being with Jordan, it's like it was unfathomable to all of them that you're such a huge superstar, you're such an isolated person. The world is trying to get at you every single moment. So never mind just even the energy it took to go to the finals so many years, but just to be Michael Jordan and just try to have a sense of self was difficult.
You think the Bulls would have won? Let's say the team stayed together. Rodman, Pippen, Jordan. Let's say somehow they stayed together. Because the next year was an NBA lockout year, so they only played 50 games. So he would have had load management. He would have had a lot more of a break and stuff like that. You think they would have won 4 in a row?
Yes, for sure. I mean, who won that year? It was the Spurs, right?
That was the beginning of the Spurs.
Yeah, no problem. It wasn't even Greg Popovich Spurs, was it?
I can't remember if it was Pop or not, but it was the beginning of that Spurs 5. Yeah, I mean, that's to me is also the other, I know at the time they didn't know there was going to be a lockout, but it was like, man, if they just kept it together for just one more year after this year.
Yeah. So when Jordan came back, he came back during midway through the season or
in March.
Yeah, in March. So not even midway. He's a month till the season's done.
Yeah.
Right? And the following year, they manhandled the Orlando Magic of Shaq, Penny, Nick Anderson,
Speaking of tears, Nick Anderson.
They went 4-0 if I recall correctly, and Rodman handled like Shaq
Yeah.
like so amazingly, and Rodman's so much smaller and way less than Shaq. So I don't see why they could have had a problem with Spurs, which was David Robinson. And
I think the Rockets one would have been interesting if they ever met them in the finals.
Mhm.
That would have probably been a bit of more of a challenge. I think the Rockets had a little bit more depth.
right.
They had a little bit more shooting. So I think they would have posed a bit more of a problem.
And speaking of Rodman, I think the next episode is probably going to be entirely, or for the most part, be about him. So that's another interesting story. I think that obviously on and off the court will really bring a lot more out of the series.
There's a funny story too, where like Rodman wanted to go away. I think it was to Vegas or something, and Phil Jackson didn't want to let him go out without adult supervision. So he's like, Steve Kerr, you go with him. And Steve Kerr's like, yo, I don't really do this kind of Vegas thing or whatever. Like, anybody even knows Steve Kerr now? Like, he's not like really clearly a party dude. So he's like, but Phil Jackson put Steve Kerr on him, I guess, for like responsibility. So I hope they get into that story too.
That is a movie that has to be made.
The buddy cop movie.
The buddy guy the One Night in Vegas.
That's the title, yeah.
One Night in Vegas. Rodman and Kerr.
It would have been better than that Rodman John Claude Van Damme movie.
Oh, what was that called?
Double Team.
Double Team.
Of course, it was called Double Team.
That was green hair Rodman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I think Carmen Electra makes an appearance in the documentary. She's probably going to be in the next episode.
What?
Yeah, because I saw her, I think maybe it was in one of the trailers. So, yeah, I think they're going to give Rodman quite a bit of time.
Madonna should show up as well. He was mashing that back in the day.
Who was?
Rodman was mashing Madonna back in the day, too.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So
yeah,
she should show up, too.
Yeah, I doubt it.
It was Greg Popovich who won in '99, by the way.
So that was the first beginning of the Spurs run, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The Rodman thing, too, is kind of a weird one because they had such great battles with the Pistons and the Bulls in that rivalry. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of position that. Because I know a lot of people got upset that, like, before the 63-point playoff game, Jordan was playing golf with Danny Ainge. But people also don't realize that, like, Jordan wasn't playing golf with Danny Ainge to, like, recruit him or, like, come play for me or whatever. Like, he was trying to destroy Danny Ainge on the golf course, and then he went and destroyed him on the court. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
LeBron and Melo and stuff, they're like, I can't do this on my own. I need help.
And
they're
to
riding
gamble.
banana boats together.
Yeah.
Well, I think, that's Jordan playing his psychological warfare early. And he did that to Barkley, too, in the 93 season.
By the way, Denny, did you remember this? That I was looking up the 63-point playoff game. You know who's one of his teammates was George Iceman Gervin.
Yes.
I've forgotten that he was on the Bulls. For the 63-point game, he got 1 foul and 1 point. That was his. He played 5 minutes in that game.
Yeah, he was at the end of his career then.
Yeah.
And there are stories where Jordan kind of bullied him too.
Yeah.
So he did not respect his elders enough.
One thing he could no longer do was finger roll.
Back in those days, it's got to be highlighted that the center was the center of the game, right? And to have a shooting guard come in and dominate in such a fashion is just completely way more rare. And even after Jordan, centers were the thing.
Well, that was what made Pippen so unusual too. Pippen didn't really have a proper position. He was kind of doing a little bit of point guardy stuff. He was doing a little bit of small forwardy kind of stuff. And he was also like guarding centers and things like that. Like he was kind of all over the place. He was like that prototype.
LeBron.
Yeah.
LeBron, yeah.
But nowadays they kind of draft players without a proper position, like stuff like Draymond Green and stuff like that. We're like, we'll just put him in somewhere, and then. But Pippen was the first one where like he doesn't really kind of fit in. with traditional, like, so that was the thing too with the team. The basketball itself was starting to evolve. The way that Phil Jackson coached them, but also the way
Yeah.
they assembled the team.
Yeah, you combine that the triangle. There was not in that '90s run. They didn't have really a dominant center, and it just over the years it kind of got weaker and weaker. It went from Bill Cartwright to Luke
Bill
Longley,
Whittington.
Bill Whittington. You know, yeah,
Looks like a
sprinkle in
like-
some Will Purdue.
Yeah. Bill looks like he's in Sons of Anarchy or something with that handlebar, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He got rough looking, man.
Speaking of Phil Jackson, what do you guys have to say about his appearances in the documentary so far?
The funny thing is that, you know, the segment when they were talking about the Jerry Krause situation, they used Phil's interview, how, you know, he was saying Scotty was berating him in front of everybody, and that they had to tell Scotty to cool it down. But there are stories where Phil did the exact same thing to Jerry Krause too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if they'll get into that more in the documentary later.
Phil is very much like Jordan in that he tries to control the narrative. So,
Also, a lot of Phil Jackson's, I mean, at least since he's left the game, the impression you get is that he's sort of the Zen master who shows people art films and things like that to meditate and all that stuff. But it'd be interesting to see more of the man in the heat of battle.
there's one I think it was a playoff game. I don't think it was a finals game. But there was a playoff game where the Bulls lost. And Phil Jackson was furious with the team. And what he did was he took moments from the game and he spliced it together with scenes from Wizard of Oz to show that the team was playing with no brains, no heart, no guts.
Brutal.
And I'm like, well, that's why you win a lot, man. Like, when you see that, like, I don't know how else you don't feel bad for yourself. And, like, why'd you let this defensive guy go by? Like, why'd you blow this defensive rotation? Those kind of things are like, all right.
You know, he was angry to have made a video like that, because back then it would have been like tape to edit that thing together.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he had that young intern somewhere in the back. Like, I need this by 11 a.m. tomorrow for practice.
Yeah.
Work.
I mean, it can't help makes you think about, you know, over the past couple of decades, the psychological shifts in success, or what we deem as success or happiness. The old school mentality, as they call it nowadays, is like, back then, shame was the biggest motivator for anybody who wanted to succeed. And now the psychology has shifted, whether it's more effective or not. I guess, you know, nobody gets their feelings hurt nowadays, or at least less. But I don't know. It's just really interesting. I don't know what to think of it, because we grew up in that time frame too, right? Like, suck it up, right? So, and it's not like we're not cold-hearted people, but at the same time, it is odd to kind of be able to experience that psychology growing up, and then how things are today. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Wait, do you consider then Jordan mean then? Or how, like, that's the narrative or that's kind of going out there. So how would you classify Jordan?
See, in the context of today, they would call him mean.
That's his worry.
And that's his worry, because I think, okay, if you look at the psychology of the man himself, he's sort of like, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe he's just stuck in a motion picture in a way. He lived as this crazy superstar basketball player. And so his image was kind of a part of his own self-image. How others perceived him was all he kind of knew, because there was so much attention for so many years. And then when it's kind of like almost like a parent who becomes an empty nester. When the kids are gone, you're like, well, what am I now?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of, you know, in that sense, you know, psychologically, he's a little stuck in time. He only knew himself as the guy who had the spotlight. And so, yeah, I'm not sure where I'm going with this exactly, but it's just more like,
Well, I think there's something there for sure. I mean, you know, trying to choose my words carefully. I don't want to sound like an old man complaining about millennials, um, but there is a shift. There has been a psychological shift, and I do think it has made people softer. It's made the culture softer, and I think that speaks to being a generation that's not been through a lot of tough things. Historically speaking, the current pandemic aside, we've had it pretty easy, and you know, and sort of parenting and sort of what success means has shifted in this past 20, 30 years to take a much more holistic, call it, or softer approach, which I think day to day may be fine, but when you're trying to do very difficult, hard things, I don't think that process or that philosophy necessarily is as effective as just get shit done and don't complain. I think it's born of coming out of a difficult place and learning to do difficult things, and learning to be self-efficient. So it's I definitely see what you're saying. There is a shift, and I think it's a generational thing. And maybe there's no good or bad in it, but I do feel that if you want to do extremely difficult things in this context, like Michael Jordan did, um, you it's kind of like it's like Steve Jobs was known for being a jerk, but he brought the best out of people in the end because he had a vision. And I think Jordan, and I think Bill Gates too, these are guys who had visions for what they wanted to do in this world, and they had to pull people kicking and screaming along to get this done, because not everyone is made up of that stuff, and sometimes people do need someone yelling at them, Tony, to get their ass in gear. So I think it's fascinating, but you're right to wonder how this is going to play out for Michael now, because the culture is what it is. He may be seen as being mean, but I mean, I don't think he should worry about that, to be honest.
Do the ends justify the means? Because Bill Wellington has like rings, multiple rings, whereas like Barkley has none. John Stockton has none. Like there was a lot of all the Knicks, none. Like, do the ends justify the means? Then was Jordan kind of right in that way?
I think in the context of basketball, where I don't think it was a life and death situation. Sure, I mean, you have to consider the people he was working with as well, right? Not everyone on the team was Scottie Pippen.
Yeah, even up at the front office, same deal. No, but those are really great points actually, and it is sports, and it is the closest thing to simulated war if you're not actually in
I
true
think
physical.
literally that's what it is, right? I mean, that's historically in ancient times, that's what sports was, right?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it does bring out, you are doing physical things and you're trying to win. So is there going to be added testosterone to the situation? Absolutely. I don't know what it's like nowadays uh, in the arenas. Maybe there is ways to find success without being so harsh. I don't know. But in terms of what Samuel was asking, do the I don't know, because I'm sure Jordan wasn't the only guy who was rough on his teammates. I'm sure
Punch
Barkley
Steve
was.
Kerr in the face.
Yeah, but everybody kind
In
of.
the 80s was probably pretty miserable too.
Say that again.
The Pistons, they were probably a miserable team to be on.
Yeah, potentially, right? There could have been like a good deal of scuffles then. And Barkley was a roughneck too. I'm sure he gave it to his guys as well.
Mm-hmm.
But um, Jordan, like I guess even from from every kind of level, he backed it up with his actions. He's just not yelling at you because he likes to yell at people, but he needs everybody to be on board, everybody to be like 100% focused.
It's interesting because you guys come out of film and we don't leadership rhetoric to the way directors work. Like James Cameron works a completely different way with the actors and with the crew than Quentin Tarantino does to like you pick any other director. But those are high pressure situations as well with millions of dollars on the line. And like sometimes the director just yells and like you suck.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean? Like
strange. It is
I don't know
strange.
why in sports it's bad that Jordan's this way, but then we don't talk about directors or the other. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, there is a filmmaking and the actual act of making a movie often gets compared to war, which take it for what it is. People use a lot of those same metaphors. And yeah, I mean, there are guys who I remember hearing stories about the filming of Titanic, and the crew that worked on that film made T-shirts that said, you can't scare me. I work for James Cameron. And he was a tyrant, but he was also trying to do something that had never been done before, and it succeeded. I mean, here's the thing: like, a lot of this comes down to the fact that they ultimately did succeed. If they hadn't, then I think it would be a slightly different conversation. But it comes down to the moment in time, I think.
It'd be interesting. I don't know if there's a way to do it. There probably isn't, but it'd be interesting to compare the way that Jordan leads now as the owner of the Charlotte Hornets. He must be so frustrated. That team sucks. It sucked for years. He also had to figure out leadership as well. And this was part of I think one of the more interesting aspects of the doc is that leadership is not always natural to everyone. You got to figure out the way that you do it and the way that you motivate. If there was mistakes or things that he would have preferred to do differently, it's like it's too late. It's already out there, and like he made Tony Kukoc cry. Like, there's no way around it, right? So it's like you can't take it back. But it would be interesting to compare how he got better or worse as a leader, going from a player to an owner.
I mean, I would think he's probably matured, and I don't know that he applies the same, leadership strategies in a business setting as you would, on the court.
He cuffed the player on the back of the head. Remember that, Denny? When one of the I forgot which Harvard player it was, but he cuffed him on the back of the head.
Oh, right. I say something Monk. Is it Malik Monk?
Yeah, it was a Monk, I think it was. He did a terrible play. He deserved the cuff on the head, though. So I agree with that leadership.
But it was much more gentle than his 98 cuff in the head.
Yeah. Oh, he punched Steve Kerr in the face. This is also, I think, too, the thing that we do with like comedy. A couple of years ago, like literally like 2015, 2016, or 2017, the two Eddie Murphy specials were on Netflix. They hadn't been on Netflix for a little while, and they kind of made a push for it. It was Delirious and Raw. And people were offended that, and one of them, or both of them, he used the word retarded. That was the issue now. We're like, all the other language and all the other things are like acceptable, but you use the word retarded, and that's what's like.
Well, I think that speaks to just where, like we were saying earlier, the culture has gotten so soft and like, everyone's offended for everything. So
that's, I think, also too. Like, I think like you can't use the modern standards.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about the people being offended by the retard stuff, it's like that question that everyone keeps asking, and Jordan has addressed it, where it's like, well, how would he compare to LeBron? Who's the best of all time? And Jordan's usually pretty, modest about it. He's like, well, they were different eras, and that's what I think what we're talking about here is that it was a different era, it was a different time, and so you can't really apply, and you shouldn't really apply, today's political or moral standards to a bygone time, no matter how recent it was, historically speaking. So I think people need to sort of kind of take a broader view of these things and really try to understand the context. And context is everything, right?
One of the more fascinating aspects too, and I hope that people walk away, who watch the documentary walk away with this, is that Jordan actually was one of the few times where the hype was actually equal to the work. A lot of times you get hype or like and we've seen this too with like players like LeBron James and stuff come in and like I'm calling myself the king and I'm like, dude, you haven't even played in the playoffs yet, much less won a championship. You're not the king of like anything. But I'm gonna wear 23. I'm gonna wear Jordan's number. I'm like,
and then I'm gonna join the Lakers.
Yeah, I know. Like,
yeah, that's some weak sauce there.
Yeah, it's completely like. Don't get me started. It's just so fabricated and so.
Yes, it's manufactured.
Yes, that's the word. Yeah.
It's not only it's manufactured, but it's telegraphed, and it's like it's one of those things where it's like, well, this is the blueprint that Michael created. These guys get into college, and they're in some, from high school, but they say, okay, well, this is the blueprint, and I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to be called this, and I'm going to wear this shoe and this number. And like Michael Jordan earned every single one of those parts of his career.
Yep.
Every single, I mean, not a one thing was not unearned. So it's almost embarrassing to watch, especially when guys like LeBron decide, well, I'm going to wear number 23. So, so he basically is associating himself with the greatness of Michael and thinking that that's enough.
Yep.
And it's not. Your numbers are great, but you're, at the end of the day, the man who has transcended the game, and no one since has done it the way he has. And I'm talking about sports in general. I mean, Jordan truly transcended the sports and became something other than sports. And now you just see people trying to make that happen. It's kind of like, everyone's trying to make a Star Wars movie, right? Like that's essentially what's happened to movies, right? And but Star Wars was a hard-earned win for George Lucas, and just because you followed all the steps with marketing and toys and all that doesn't make you great. And so yeah, it was just a different era, and I think we're going to definitely see how the media was a big part of this story as well.
Jordan's incredibly charismatic. Like, even if you didn't, if you didn't know who he was and you didn't know anything about basketball, but that dude walked into the room, you'd be like, that guy's somebody. Like, there's a way that he carries himself, the smile, all that stuff.
Swagger.
Yeah. Like, that dude is somebody. Like, he was built for this.
Well, I mean, just the way the guy dressed. Like, it was crazy. I mean, when I was watching Jordan, I was in the 8th grade. I remember I had this GQ cover of Jordan. And that was one of the reasons why I would walk into school with ties and trench coats at like age 13. Because those were just cool ass motherfuckers.
Well, I mean, Jordan, was certainly, if not one of the players that changed the game in terms of fashion off the court, right? He was clean cut for sure, but he also had a great sense of style. I mean, were there any NBA players on the cover of GQ before then? I don't know, but probably not.
Well, Clyde Frazier.
Clyde Frazier, right. Yeah.
But look at the beanies and the berets and.
Well, yeah, no, Frazier too was like, he did that. He was a '70s New York City Knicks, like New York Knicks player, but he dressed like a pimp. So it was the opposite end of the spectrum. It was all like leopard and fur coats, still smooth, still swagger, but not quite like, I can't rock that. Like, yeah. Denny, we're not going to school in like leopard.
No, but he had the two-tone shoes.
Oh, the two-tone shoes, yeah. Was it the 21st century blazer?
Yeah, the Century 21 blazer.
Century 21 blazer.
That's right. I was trying to be like Elvis, so I wore my brother's real estate agent jacket to high school.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think we're good, man. I think we've covered quite a bit.
So we can wrap it up. I guess so. Basically, what we summed up is that, if I got this right, if I've listened to this conversation correctly, that Jerry Krause is basically like the FBI agents in Die Hard. We'll take it from here. Right? So Jordan and the team are out there pulling glass out of their feet, taking out bad guys, and Jerry Krause is like, FBI guys is like, we'll take it from here. So, is that about right?
Certainly, I think definitely that seems to be the story dynamic here, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, especially since Krause is no longer here, to see how that will all be treated, and certainly I think Reinsdorf has a lot to answer for too.
Yeah, I'm hoping the show will get into, or the series would get into more of. There was a little nugget of, Jordan was talking about the root of his competitiveness was based on his family dynamics, especially with his brother Larry, and that really kind of like opened a window that you didn't ever really see. So I hope they kind of dig even more into things like that.
For sure, yeah. That whole aspect of the early upbringing was fascinating. So, and he did mention that anger was his motivation for a lot of the stuff he did. So that I hope they do delve into that, the source of that anger.
Yeah, he wore 23 because when he was on the high school team, Larry wore 45. And he wore 23 because it was half of his brother's number because he thought he was half the basketball player that his brother was.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
I was kind of like sad that they didn't bring that up because it's like that's a pivotal, like that was a key thing. And that was one of the reasons why he wore 45 when he first came back, was because like he wanted to kind of give a nod to his brother as well. Like it was a kind of a layered thing.
Right. See, and that's kind of where like there's so many ways you could have done this series. And maybe next time we can talk about it more, but as we see how it progresses. But it's still early to say, but there's just a lot of nuggets, and you hope that they kind of really expand on them as it moves on. And even just one thing, now that they've opened the doors to the cussing, and they really kind of just say, hey man, he's a bad motherfucker. I want to see more on-court footage of the trash talking.
Yes,
that would be amazing.
100%. On that note, Sammy, why don't you take us out with one of your favorite hip hop lyrics that have Jordan name checked in it?
Oh, let's do Jay and Kanye.
All right, hit it.
All right. Psycho. I'm liable to go Michael. Take your pick. Jackson, Tyson, Jordan, game 6. Also hard, got a broken clock. There you go.
There you go. And I think that lyric sums up the series as well. This was fun, guys. I look forward to talking to you guys about episodes 3 and 4 next week.
Yep. So
Thank
we'll
you.
be back for another episode. My name's been Sammy Younan.
Denny Chan.
And Jigar Talati.
All right, and we'll be back.
Peace.